is Ellen Wasfy of the League of Women Voters of Kent County, and I will be your moderator this evening. On behalf of the League and its co-hosts, the American Association of University Women, Dover Branch, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, Central Delaware Branch number 2028, the Central Delaware Alumni Council of the National Pan-Hellenic Council, and Restoring Central Dover, it is my pleasure to welcome you to a virtual candidates night for 2020. Let me stress that the League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that does not support or oppose any candidate or political party. Tonight's program will afford us the opportunity to hear a discussion of issues and opinions, which will enable us to make more informed choices on Election Day. This evening, candidates for Kent County Levy Court Commissioner, Districts 1, 3, and 5, Clerk of the Peace, and Register of Wills were invited to participate in a forum. However, the League of Women Voters is required to abide by regulations set forth by the Federal Elections Commission, the Federal Communications Commission, and the Internal Revenue Service. These regulations are intended to ensure nonpartisanship by nonpartisan groups sponsoring appearances of candidates running for public office. Consequently, should only one candidate for a particular office be present, we cannot provide the opportunity for him or her to address the audience as part of the formal debate. There must always be at least 2 points of view represented for each office. This evening, one candidate is affected by these regulations. The opponent of John P. Kelly III, Republican, for the office of Register of Wills declined the invitation to appear, and therefore, Mr. Kelly is not able to participate. Let us now turn to the format of this evening's debate. The candidates will have 2 minutes for their opening statements, outlining issues of particular importance to their campaigns. League of Women Voters member Dr. Phyllis Edamatsu and Carolyn Brinkley will act as timekeepers. They will notify the candidates when they have 15 seconds left and when their time is up. In fairness to all the candidates, we request that they observe these time limits. The initial speaking order was determined beforehand through the method of random choice by the League of Women Voters Candidates Night Committee. Following the initial presentations, the candidates will have the opportunity to respond to questions sent in by the public via email prior to tonight's event, and also questions posed by the League of Women Voters on its Vote 411 website. Each candidate will have 1 minute to answer each question and 1 minute for rebuttal if desired, but they are limited to only 1 rebuttal per question per candidate. All candidates will have the chance to respond to each question posed to their office, and we ask them to direct their comments to the viewing audience and not to each other. One final word regarding tonight's presentation. Organizing such an event would not have been possible without the conscientious efforts of civic-minded citizens who spend hundreds of hours planning and attending to details. Our gratitude goes to the League of Women Voters Candidates Night Committee, Jean Bauer, Gwen Elliott, and Mary Merritt, who contacted and followed up with the candidates directly. Joan and Fred Brookelman, who formatted and issued the letters of invitation and debate guidelines to all the candidates. Beverly Jackson, who coordinated candidates' responses and fielded questions from the public. And Mary Ann Coe and Chandra Owens, who contributed their technology expertise to enable us to host and publicize this virtual forum. We would also like to recognize Dr. Mary Kay Eggers, President of the League of Women Voters of Kent County, Janet Tomaszewski, President of AAUW Dover, Ann Smith, President of the Central Delaware Branch of the NAACP, Chandra Owens, President of the Central Delaware Pan-Hellenic Alumni Council, and Shonda Jackson, President of Restoring Central Dover, for volunteering their organizations to co-sponsor this event. And now let me introduce the candidates for Levy Court and Clerk of the Peace. We will start out with 3rd District Levy Court, Mr. Welton Satchel, Republican. You may give your 2-minute introductory comments at this time.
Okay, good morning all. Thanks to the League of Women Voters for having me and for holding this forum. Born and raised Delawarean from the southern part of the state, lived in Kent County for the last 11 years. I have one son. I work in the construction industry, done that for the last 11 years. And really want to do a great thing here in Kent County. So good luck to the rest of the candidates tonight and look forward to the conversations that we're going to have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satchel. Our next candidate from the 3rd District for Levy Court Commissioner is Commissioner Alan Angel, Democrat.
Well, thank you very much and good evening too. I am your Levy Court Commissioner presently. I've been married for 43 years with 3 daughters, their husbands, and their daughters. We all graduated from Dover High School. I've lived 38 years in my house. I own a small business of 43 years. I understand what a homeowner needs or wants. I also understand what happens to small businesses. These experiences are learned over time. And during my life experiences, I've had the pleasure to serve my community by serving on the Professional Standards Council, the Capital School Board, 2 years as president, co-founder of Dover High School alumni, co-founder of the Code Purple, which helps feed and the homeless. I served my country in the Army. I also taught at Hudsonville Tech as a down lab instructor. I've given back to my community in numerous other ways. That's me. That's what I do. Up until recently, the tornado hurricane that devastated our community, I've tried to help get people back, their lives back in their homes, clean the debris from their yards, their homes, streets, aid them in whatever means they need it. I'm running for Levy Court so that I may continue to help my community. For the time I started, I've always been focused on you, my community. That's why I always say, you're my boss. I work for you. It's not about what I put your needs above my own, is what I'm trying to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. The next district we turn to is the 5th District, and we will hear from Commissioner Jody Sweeney, Democrat.
Thank you, Ms. Wasfy. Good evening, and thank you for hosting this public debate. I've spent 59 of my 60 years in Kent County. I was born in 1960 in Lewis, Delaware, and I moved to Rodney Village after I turned 1. All but 4 of those years, I've lived right here in the 5th Levy Court District. I'm a 1978 graduate of Cesar Rodney High School and Kent Tech, which is now called Polytech High School. My father was the printing and photography teacher at Kent Tech and had a small printing business, and my mom was an Avon lady. My wife, Chris, and I raised 4 children in Kent County. 2 went through the Lake Forest School District and graduated from Polytech in 97 and 2000. 2 went through the Cesar Rodney School District and graduated from Polytech in 2007 and 2010. The 2007 graduate, Cameron, I'm very proud to say, was Polytech's Teacher of the Year for the 2020-2021 school year, and all 4 of my children are very successful. Growing up in Kent County, swimming in Isaacs Branch near Rodney Village, in the summer, ice skating on Moores Lake in the winter, playing in the pits behind Smallwood Drive off Old Mill Road, going to school at 5 Cesar Rodney schools, going to Sunday school at Wyoming United Methodist Church on Broad Street in Wyoming and becoming a member of that church, and now working for a public school district in Kent County have all shaped my views of where I want Kent County to be. And that is to understand where we came from and that we need to protect the rich agricultural history that we have, and our contributions to Delaware and to the United States. Many people don't understand that Kent County started the United States and Delaware was a state for the first 5 days by itself. We were the only United State of America. As a Levy Court Commissioner, we have kept your taxes low while funding 2 new paramedic stations, providing funding to local and state police, increasing fire company grants from $360,000 to nearly $1 million this past year, installing the first dog park in Kent County, Tidbury Park, adding Kesselring Park with Kent County Recreation Center and a turf football field. Don't just ask me what I'm going to do. Tell me, look at what I've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sweeney. Our next candidate for the 5th District Levy Court is Mr. Clint Brothers, Republican.
Well, hello, everyone. It's very nice to join everyone tonight, albeit unprecedented here with the Zoom debate instead of a live debate. But nonetheless, I'm glad to be with you. Thank you for the league for putting the debate on, and thank you for all being here. I live here in Camden, Delaware with my wife and my 3 children. They all attend Caesar Rodney schools. I am one of the directors of my HOA. I am a church board member, and I have volunteered with the Modern Maturity Center for their Meals on Wheels program. And I also helped, and I will say along with my opponent, during the storm cleanup. And I was very appreciative. And also Alan Angel, Commissioner Angel was very helpful with that as well. So I was glad we could all come together during that project. Look, we face some critical issues here in Kent County that need to be addressed. We need to simplify our permitting process. We need to make it faster. Businesses go to other states because their permitting process is faster. We have to bring higher paying jobs in here. The first issue I talked about will help with that. Our incomes are on average 9% lower than the rest of the state. We have to support our first responders, and we need to promote responsible government and responsive government. I want to do that for you. I want to step up, build upon my community service that I've had now, and be your next 5th District Levy Court Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Turning now to the 1st District for Levy Court, Dr. Doug Chervenak, Republican. Dr. Chervenak,
You're still muted, sir.
are you on? Ms. Petters, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
You can?
I can hear you. Yes. Dr. Chervenak, we need to hear you.
Good. Can you hear
Oh,
me?
now we can hear you very well.
Good. Should I shout or?
No.
Okay.
That'll be fine.
I've been a doctor here in the District 1 for 31 years. My slogan is smart choices make better communities. Being a family doctor, I know, I've said this before, I know my constituents inside and out. I talk to them about not only issues of their physical health, but their mental health. And this past year has been rather difficult. I also talk to them about their living environments, things that are going on in their communities. And since I was on council from 06 to 09, I understand how important county government could be to our people, because I was appalled, absolutely appalled at the infrastructure of Smyrna when I got on there. And I remember my first 3 weeks, I gave a rather long talk about the infrastructure of the town, which was terrible. Now I'm looking at Kent County and District 1, and I'm saying, infrastructure has to come before the developments. And I'm going up and down these roads, and there's a traffic jam in Clayton, Delaware. There's rush hour in Clayton, Delaware. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. That was a beautiful little town when I first came there. The second thing is that as a physician, I can offer advice that is not on the current levy court, and that is medical advice. I know the medical community, and we have a shortage of primary care physicians. We need permanent, not hired, not employed. We need permanent primary care physicians in our county. I know District 1 is probably 4 or 5 physicians short as we speak. When I've been speaking to people, they can't get an appointment with a new family doctor for months. And if you're sick, you don't need an appointment in months.
Thank you, Dr. Chervenak. A lot of these ideas can be expounded on and continued as you're answering the Q&A. So
Well, thank you very much.
the
Thank you
questions
very
will,
much for listening to it.
the questions will come up and you will have a chance to finish your thought, I'm sure.
Okay, good.
We'll now turn to our second candidate for First District Levy Court, Ms. Joanne Maston.
Good evening. It is a pleasure to address the Delaware League of the League of Local resident of Kent County. I was educated here in Smyrna, even though I worked in Wilmington for 41 years in the corporate world, traveling around the world. Smyrna was always my home. I've been retired for 10 years. I am a small business owner in Dover, so I understand the problems that most businesses have had during COVID. I'm proud to say I'm currently active on 9 boards here in the Smyrna area where I serve. I served 2 years as Smyrna Town Council. I've served 2 terms, a total of 4 years as mayor of the town of Smyrna, leaving in 2017. During my time on council, I felt that I was very responsive to the needs of the residents as well as the businesses. And I want to work in a higher capacity as your full-time levy court commissioner for District 1. The issues that I intend to address would be jobs in Kent County, the lack of affordable internet access in certain areas of the county, as well as our paramedic program, which is paramount to Kent County, especially with the influx of over 55 communities. I welcome any and all questions at the appropriate time, and thank you for the opportunity to address all of you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maston. We now turn to our candidates for Kent County Clerk of the Peace, and we'll start out with the Honorable Brenda Wooten, Democrat. We can't hear you. Do you have your mic pressed on?
Unmute. Can you hear me now?
There we
Okay.
go. We got it.
Hi, everybody. I would like to first thank the League of Women Voters for putting this forum on tonight. It is my pleasure being here. I'm currently the Clerk of the Peace for Kent County, and I'm seeking re-election on November 3rd. To give you a little background about myself, I am a native Delawarean, originally from Felton, a 1981 graduate from Lake Forest High School, and a 2005 graduate from Wesley College, where I earned a bachelor's degree with honors in paralegal studies. In my career, I have proudly served the constituents in this county, giving them over 27 years of exceptional public service experience with both the judicial and the executive branch of state government. In my community, I'm active in my church, various civic clubs, and charitable organizations. And so I decided to retire after 25 years from the state of Delaware. My mother was currently the Clerk of the Peace here, and she decided to retire. So that's when I decided to run for this office, because of my sincere passion in serving others and giving back to my community all of my life. This office is very important because it fulfills a very important role to our constituents. We issue marriage license and certified copies. We perform marriage ceremonies to a diverse population, including our great military men and women who serve our country. In addition, we record and act as custodian of record for all levy court business meetings. In my last term as your Clerk of the Peace, I have been dedicated and committed and listened to all the needs of everyone who enters our office, and I go above and beyond in making a couple's special day a memorable occasion. I'm always looking for innovative ways for staff and myself to continue to provide excellent customer service to the public while being fiscally responsible, keeping our technology upgraded, and maintaining a friendly and professional working environment. 4 years ago, I was elected to represent the voters of Kent County, and I took an oath of office pledging to perform my duties as Kent County Clerk of the Peace. I have remained committed in my performance as an elected official.
Thank you
And
very much, Ms.
When
Wooten.
re-elected, it's my sincere pleasure to continue to give back to the community that I have
You
been
will have
honored
the-
and privileged to serve.
You'll have the opportunity to finish that thought in the questions. I want you to realize that many of the ideas that you've started out with in your introductory comments will appear in the Q&A, so you can simply continue at that time, but we have to limit you, unfortunately, so that everyone has a chance to speak. Our next candidate for Clerk of the Peace for Kent County is Mr. William Mcvay, Libertarian Party.
Good evening, everybody. I want to thank everyone for being here, and I particularly want to thank Ms. Wasfy and the League of Women Voters for putting this event on. I've been involved in Delaware politics, in particular in Kent County, since about 2010 through the Libertarian Party. And the League of Women Voters has always put on this event and encouraged everyone who is on the ballot and even the declared write-in candidates to participate. And I very much appreciate that.
Mr. McVay, you start fading out. Do you have your, maybe you should approach the screen. Yeah. I can hear you in the beginning and then it fades out. Go ahead.
Better now?
Yeah.
All right, sorry about that. So yeah, I was just saying, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for inviting everybody to participate, all the ballot qualified candidates. That's one of the things that has always struck me about the League of Women Voters is their fairness and their openness and trying to educate the public and who's available to run for public office. My background is I'm a software engineer, write web applications. So technology is something that's very familiar and something I'm very proficient in. So being able to kind of share the public records of the Kent County Levy Court as a clerk of the peace is something that I think I would be able to do particularly well. At the end of the day, though, one of the main reasons that I'm running is that I don't believe the Kent County Clerk of the Peace should be an elected position. I think that it's a staff position. Anybody can officiate marriage ceremonies. Anyone can keep records. Anyone can make sure that they're published when the Kent County Levy Court meets and takes action. I think that having it as an elected position gives you the risk of getting you into a Kim Davis kind of situation like we had in Kentucky, not Miss Petters, different Kim, where she refused to issue marriage licenses because she didn't personally agree with the people who were getting married and the lifestyle that they lived. And I think that that's a dangerous situation. And if you're an elected official, you can't be gotten rid of. If you're a staff member that gets hired by the county, you don't want to do your job, you get fired. So that's the main purpose of my campaign. And if anybody hears anything above all the noise about Kent County Clerk of the Peace, it's that it should be a staff position, not an elected one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. McVay. Our final candidate is for Kent County Clerk of the Peace is Ms. Kimberly Petters, Republican. Ms. Petters.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here among each and every single one of you. So I was born and raised in Connecticut, and within a year of 9/11, I joined the military. I wanted the chance to serve my country and also the opportunity to get an education. And I did just that. While I was serving, I did get 4 degrees. I got retired out in Nebraska, and upon getting retired out, our family faced some tragedy. And my husband and I, we are now married 15 years. We had 2 children at the time, and my brother and sister-in-law both passed away. And so we inherited their 2 children with no life insurance. And the closest family we had was New Jersey, and we could not afford their taxes. And so I looked in Delaware, and I found Magnolia. It's a beautiful town. It has excellent educational system, and it's low in taxes and low in crime. And so we moved here, and that's how I ended up here. That was in 2013. We've been here for 7 years now. We absolutely love it. We've planted roots. Our family is thriving. And since then, I had gotten involved in politics and working with my community over legislation to help veterans. And I've had my hand in a few different things. And so when the opportunity came to now not just serve my country, but serve my local community as Clerk of Peace, I was excited and eager for it because I have so many ideas I'd like to bring to the table, not just to married people. I guess we're going to get into that. I just saw my 15-second warning, but there's a lot of programs and resources I would like to provide to our community, and I'm happy to do the legwork. It would be, of course, at no additional cost to the taxpayers. So I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you very much, Ms. Petters. Thank you all for your introductory statements, but they all lead into the questions that are coming up. And we'll start out with our first few questions for our candidates for Levy Court Commissioner. The first question really is what I told you is your statements were a lead-in to the first question. And the first question is, what do you see as the most urgent issues in Kent County at this time? So we'll start out with Ms. Maston for First District. Ms. Maston, Democrat.
As I stated previously, I think the number one issue right now in Kent County is jobs and bringing good paying jobs with benefits here. As being a seat at the table for the town of Smyrna at the County Economic Partnership, I have that opportunity to be able to participate with the executive director, Linda Parkowski, and the rest of the groups in order to get jobs here and good jobs. The other issue I think is very critical is the lack of affordable internet or even internet being in certain areas of the county. And where it's become important is because of schools having to do virtual. A lot of people don't have access to internet, and even if they have internet, it's not affordable. And I know that Linda Parkowski is leading a team along with Jeff Spiegelman and I think Jody Sweeney, along with others, to try to get that situation under hand. The third issue I think is important is the paramedic program. Again, as a result of the increase in the number of over 55 communities coming into Delaware, the paramedic program is increasingly important to the baby boomers, of which I am one. I know that there's a plan to build a brand new paramedic station west of Dover,
Thank
but it's
you.
going to need to be funded.
Thank you, Ms. Maston. And you probably will have a chance to expound on that later on in the debate. Our
Okay, thank
next
you.
candidate from First District is Dr. Chervenek. I'm going to get this right eventually.
That's fine. But you know, my being a doctor, I see the urgent issue. When you're talking urgent, is healthcare. I mean, that's a basic human need is healthcare. And so I see people wandering around, going to urgent care centers, not getting comprehensive care, and not getting the care they need. And that would be my number one. Being a physician who is still practicing, and I will continue to practice because I love my practice and I love taking care of the people of District 1, that would be my urgent issue. I have other issues and I guess we'll talk about them later.
Thank you, Dr. Chervenek. We will now go to the 5th District and we'll ask Mr. Brothers to comment on this question. Mr. Brothers.
Yes, sure. So the biggest right now is economic development. And we desperately need some higher paying jobs here in Kent County. Just the last levy court meeting, I watched a presentation from Ms. Parkowski, who, by the way, I think is doing a very good job so far. But a lot of what I'm seeing is the jobs that we're bringing in, as I've attended levy court meetings over the past year, have been a lot of manufacturing jobs. And when we look at even the Rockport study, we want to try to diversify that a bit. Healthcare jobs, financial sector, I'm sure we could use down here. And again, I go back to the permitting process. We need to make it simpler. Everybody talks about Ready in 6. A lot of the folks on the state level talk about that, but we need to make it a reality. And we need to, and by right zoning versus conditional use. That's a simple way we can do it here in the county to help folks move into already existing facilities, vacant facilities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, Ms. Waspy. So the economy seems to be the tone of the night, which leads me to exactly what Mr. Brothers was talking about, the Tuesday night meeting with Levy Court. Linda Parkowski made announcements that we've had 6 manufacturing companies come into Kent County in the last year, leading to 425 new good paying manufacturing jobs. There's $144 million invested in either their move or their expansion, which is going to set a base for other companies to move into Kent County. This doesn't include 13 other projects that are in the works that we really can't discuss until there's more formative discussion about that with those companies. We created a strategic fund in 2010 after the state gave us some money and then they took it away from us. So the county has been budgeting a strategic initiative fund, said $800,000, and that money is used to bring in new companies. We also have the employment centers in South Frederica and Little Heaven, and those centers are going to guide commercial construction for the future.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. We'll move now to the 3rd District, and we'll hear from Commissioner Alan Angel.
1 minute, it's just not.
You're muted. You need to turn on your mic.
Needs to turn on his TV.
You try now?
How now?
There, you're good. You're good.
I don't know. I never touched it. Anyway, Commissioner Sweeney stole a lot of my thunder because as the economic chair for Kent County, yes, our meeting was very positive on Tuesday night. In fact, the companies that he mentioned, Independent Metal Straps is 12 to 15 employees coming. MVP Shoreline has 80 employees coming. USA Fulfillment is going to have 100 jobs. NKS, over 150 jobs. Project Care, another 150 jobs coming. Avalon, 35 jobs for a total of 530 in a short period of time. With the help of Levy Court and my partner Jody, we have put together a great team. And that's Linda Perkowski and the KEP. By working with us and we working with the business community, we are definitely on target to help our community with the business coming forth. So jobs, jobs, jobs is our number one priority. Plus, we were looking at the educational system to make sure that the jobs that they are coming here, high-paying jobs, that they stay here. We don't have our young people stay in this area because there's not enough education to keep jobs here. We're looking at that also to make sure that we can bring back our family members with these good-paying jobs. So that's what we've been working on. The employment centers in around the city of Little Heaven and Frederica, it's going to help them.
Thank you. Did the time card just come up? Did I see that? Oh, I'm sorry. You will be able to continue this on the next question. I'll give you a heads up.
right,
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Mr. Satchel. You're muted. You have to turn on your mic.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yes.
You know what? It seems to be the starting topic, jobs and employment increasing wages. That's one of the reasons why I got into this. I'm being out in the construction field on an everyday basis, seeing the amount of developments that are coming up in the area. That shows you the growth that's coming into the county. Unfortunately, jobs are lacking here, and kudos to Linda Parkowski and the Economic Partnership and the commissioners for, helping bring jobs back. But we need more. A lot of our young people are leaving the state because there are no jobs. There are no good paying jobs or any jobs that are in the field of whatever they're studying, they're required, and they want better paying jobs here. So definitely to bring in more jobs. That's the number one question that I get when I'm out talking to voters. We need more jobs in the area. There's a lot more jobs going out of Delaware and in the county than coming in. So we need to find a way to keep the jobs that are already here in existence and bring in more jobs.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satchel. We will now go to the second question, which really the first, would you like a rebuttal, Commissioner Sweeney?
Yes, ma'am.
Go right ahead.
So my opponent mentioned the permitting process in Kent County, and I have to say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And that's what you just heard. Kent County has already implemented the MyGov process for permitting, which is going to reduce the amount of time that a permit gets implemented and approved. It also goes to allowing the state planning office and their plus process to also use that system, because we don't have control over the state planning for anything over 75,000 square feet. So anything over 75,000 square feet has to go through the plus process. They will be able to use the same permitting and online system, payment online, approval online, notifications online, everything to speed up the permit process for those companies wanting to move into the county. So that process is already in place, and it will be done hopefully within the next 45 days. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney.
Have
Well,
a
now,
rebuttal to his rebuttal.
who would like to rebut?
Clint Brothers.
Oh, Mr. Brothers, please go right ahead.
Yeah, I mean, the MyGov, it's taken a little while, it's taken 3 years, but it's going to help a little bit, but it doesn't address everything. It doesn't address, like I spoke about in my answer earlier, with existing vacant properties. If we're able to limit the amount of times folks have to go to get a conditional use permit, if we can have more by right, like we've done with, like the county's done with daycare centers in business general. We follow off of that, and do more of that, we can bring in more jobs to even our vacant businesses here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Moving on to our next question, which really dovetails on the question that you just answered. It is, which additional measures to improve the quality of life for Kent Countyans can Levy Court address in the next 2 to 4 years? And what actions should be taken? I think we'll start out this time with the 3rd district, and we'll go to Mr. Satchel.
Can you repeat that just
I
one more
sure can.
time?
Which additional measures to improve the quality of life for Kent Countyans can Levy Court address in the next 2 to 4 years? And what actions should be taken?
Well, I had to probably start with public safety for me. And I think that I would like to see to expand more of the paramedic program, which is obviously already in process, but also to help with our first responders. A lot of EMTs and firefighters that I have spoken with, they feel the county has not done enough and that we need to do more to help them at their job. A lot of volunteer firefighters I also have spoken with, I work with 2 of them on my job. They feel that they're losing volunteers because they're not getting paid. And emergency response is one of our biggest things here in Kent County that we need to really take care of and really help out and give the funding and the additional funding that they need, not only just from the county, but from the state as well. And I think we need to really make inroads. We are losing a lot of good volunteers because they're not getting paid. We need to give them an incentive.
Thank you very much, Mr. Satchel. Commissioner Angel, also from the 3rd district.
Well, thank you very much. I see it as a multifaceted issue right now. We just went through a devastating storm. So we need to look at our disaster program for the next 2 to 4 years to make sure we're better prepared for the what, where, and how people can get answers and questions to when they are devastated. I also think that the housing market right now, with all the jobs coming forth, right now I just told you about 540 jobs, but on the queue, as Mr. Sweeney was saying, it's going to jump to about 800. That's a lot of homes in this area. So I think that's going to be a major issue. We're trying to retain people here and get people here, especially the medical, as Dr. Shervanek said. I've heard from doctors in the Milford area that their wives don't like that area that much because there's not much around. So we need to look at some things that to do in our businesses to attract. The other thing that I've always said is our firemen, I'd like to see some kind of rebate over tax purposes for fire service to lower their taxes.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Angel. We'll move now to the 1st district, and we'll go to Dr. Chervenek and see what he has to say about this issue.
Well, thank you very much, everyone, for bringing up the issue of healthcare, and it's very important. I was recruited here. I know how to recruit doctors. I know though I came from a city life to a more rural life. I love it. I think other people could do as well. As far as jobs, I think it's important, but we need quality jobs. You mentioned the quality of life. The quality of life is multifaceted. It involves infrastructure, it involves jobs, it involves education. We have universities here. And the last thing I'm going to mention is this. This is the only capital, gentlemen, that has no major air access to its capital. It's the only state in the union that has no air access to its resorts. I'm an aviator of many years. I was chairman of a committee here trying to get joint use at Dover Air Force Base. That would be wonderful if we could manage that. And I know you're scratching your head, Alan. We can do it.
Well,
Thank you very much, Mr. Chervenek. Let Ms. Math, if you want to rebut, you can rebut in a moment, but I have to give Ms. Maston a chance to respond.
Thank you.
Ms.
Hey,
Maston.
There's 3 items and I'll go very quickly. One is, I think, the continued development of the Paramedic Center west of Dover, making sure all of our paramedic centers are staffed with trained individuals with the state-of-art of equipment. I think it's a paramount that the Kent Economic Partnership, the Greater Kent Committee, along with Levy Court, as well as the members of the municipalities work jointly to make sure that we can bring good jobs into Smyrna and Dover, Milford, wherever it may be in Kent County, but also to Dr. Chevernak's point about doctors coming into the area. For those of you that may not be aware, Bay Health is working on this issue with their graduate and undergraduate education. And their plan is to start to have available physicians here trained beginning in July 2021 in order that those doctors finish their medical training here, their internship, so that these doctors can hopefully go out into the communities within Kent County or hopefully Sussex County, wherever it may be, and practice medicine here, because it is a big problem here in Smyrna for a primary doctor.
Thank you
Can I
very much.
rebut that?
Madam.
Can I rebut that?
I'll have to let all of the candidates for the different districts respond, and then I will call for the rebuttals. I have 2 more from the 5th district that have to respond to this question. And we'll start out with Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. So the quality of life for families in Kent County includes education, park space, and public safety. Education, Kent County over the last 10 years has provided more than $14 million to public schools in order to counter the growth that we've encountered in the district or in the Kent County. That's part of our adequate public facilities ordinances. $14 million that we've provided from new growth to those schools. Park space has nearly doubled in the last 10 years, including the new Kent County Regional Recreation Center with the turf field. We have around Brecknock Park and Kesselring Park, we have almost 5 miles of walking paths. Tidbury Park has the first dog park. We have partnered with the Boy Scouts. We've partnered with Boys and Girls Clubs. We've partnered with DASEF. And finally, public safety. Like I said, we've increased public safety to the fire companies by 300% in the past 10 years. And that doesn't even go to speak to the amount of money that we've given to local police and to state police for purchasing things like motorcycles and horses and horse trailers. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Mr. Brothers.
Yes, so there's 2 big things that come to mind when we talk about the quality of life. One thing was mentioned earlier was high-speed internet access, broadband internet, particularly for our underserved, more rural areas of the county. And you definitely need to work with the state on that. One of the hangups we had here in Kent County was there's an ordinance that says you can't have towers more than 200 feet. They didn't have that in Sussex County. They have a little bit better coverage in Sussex County. One thing I haven't heard yet is we have a lack of affordable housing here in Kent County. And I'd like to see the 2 other counties have what's called a voluntary inclusionary housing program. And what it does is the builder, it's totally voluntary. They are given more lots in exchange for more affordable housing in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Now, Commissioner Angel, you had something you wanted to say.
Yes, I want to thank Dr. Cervenak. I was scratching my head, Doc, because for the last 15 years, almost 16 years, we've been trying to get the civil air area from the Dover Air Force Base for air service and transportation and cargo. That's going to look like it's going to come to fruition this next coming year is what I'm being told. So as economic chair, once we get that in, that area is going to grow leaps and bounds. And I hope to have more to say once I get to learn more. But I'm definitely on board. The problem with the air base is every 2 years they have a change of command. The change of command puts things in different orders and hierarchies. And it's been put on the back burner a couple times. Then it gets put on the front burner. It's like you take a step forward, 2 steps back. But it looks like it's going to come to fruition now. And I'm happy to see it come. And I hope you can fly out of there too, sir.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. We will now, Commissioner Sweeney, you have a rebuttal.
So Mr. Brothers mentioned broadband internet. I've been in the technology field for more than 40 years. I'm also on the broadband task force that was mentioned with Linda Parkowski, with the state of Delaware, Chris Cohan from Department of Technology and Information, as well as some of the local farmers, Richard from the Delaware Farm Bureau. And the whole broadband initiative was set up so that farmers could take advantage of broadband in our rural areas to be able to better farm their lands. And I got involved because of the school district. So the school is really suffering with students who are way out in the middle of nowhere that cannot get broadband. We're working with Verizon, with Blue Surf, with AT&T, with T-Mobile, with Sprint in order to bring them internet connectivity to their house. And it's being very successful. As far as the 200-foot tower limit, that limit is not a set limit. It's not cut in stone. Nobody's ever asked for a taller tower limit, or we would have said yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Let us now turn to our candidates for Clerk of the Peace to ask them a few questions. First of all, how would you define the duties of the Kent County Clerk of the Peace? And we'll start out with Ms. Petters.
Hi, so I look at the duties of the clerk of the peace. I sort of, in my mind, I break them up into two separate positions. So one, I look at as processing marriage licenses and performing marriage ceremonies, which I couldn't think of a better job besides maybe delivering babies, but, and then the second is I did a whole bunch of research to see that I would attend, if elected, the position attends all levy court meetings, records minutes, co-signs on funds drawn, on updates city ordinances. And my opponent may be able to explain, of course, she will be able to explain that better than me, but from what I've looked into and spoken to other clerks of the peace around from the other counties, that seems to be the bulk of what there is to do. But I have a lot of ideas that I'd like to bring to the table also, because I do believe when families and marriages stay together, our community is a better community for it. Poverty levels stay down, crime rates are lower, children in
Thank you, Ms. Petters.
are more likely.
You will be able to continue your ideas in the following questions. I can guarantee that.
Okay,
Our next candidate for Clerk of the Peace is Ms. Brenda Wooten. Ms. Wooten, you're muted.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Okay. Like I said before, our office fulfills a lot of important roles. We do issue the marriage license, certified copies, we perform ceremonies, and we also act as custodian to the record, signing bonds and ordinances. We are currently the only state that has an elected clerk of peace right now, and I just believe that we are going to continue to do what we're doing. We do a very good job. I have a very good staff that's, very professional. And, I believe that we are fulfilling our needs to the best of our ability with all of our people that come. We go above and beyond and anything we ask. When people want a different venue, we go above and beyond. We go out to that certain venue to perform their service. We come in on Saturdays. We come in on meeting nights, and we come in early on meeting nights to perform ceremonies. So we listen to the individual needs of each and every person that comes in our office. We deal with a diverse population, so it makes it difficult sometimes for them. They want a certain ceremony because of their religious beliefs, so we kind of have to adhere to their situation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wooten. Mr. Mcvay.
So I'm kind of glad that the other candidates got to go first there and spell out those duties for me. Now I've looked into a little bit about what the of the office are, and at the end of the day, they're prescribed by the Delaware Code. There's a very limited set of duties that the clerk of the peace is responsible for. The counties all have slightly different language in terms of what the responsibilities are. In Kent County, it amounts to the marriage licenses and the records of the levy court meetings and signing for warrants and bonds for county spending. And at the end of the day, those are all fairly bureaucratic functions that any staff member can do. And there's no sense in having this being an elected office. The staff, I'm sure, at the clerk of the peace office and having an elected head just kind of adds an element of instability there and an element of uncertainty there. And maybe the only state that has an elected clerk of the peace now, but certainly back in 2015, when Kim Davis was becoming infamous, Kentucky had an elected clerk of the peace, and she elected not to do her job. And there was nothing anybody could do to force her to or correct that problem. So at the end of the day, this is why this should be a staff position. I'm sure that either of my opponents would be phenomenal, and the levy court should consider hiring them if that ever happens.
Thank you very much, Mr. McVay. You know, I was interested myself when I went online to try to find out all of the duties of the clerk of the peace, and all of you sold yourself short. Let me go down the list. Kent County Clerk of the Peace witnesses county documents, attends all formal levy court meetings, records all acts as custodian for the minutes of the levy court meetings, advertises and posts county ordinances, countersigns warrants drawn on county funds, issues marriage and civil union licenses, and performs marriage and civil union ceremonies. How do you sleep at night with all these duties? So anyway, it's a big job. But that leads me to the second question for the clerk of the peace. Are there issues affecting the efficiency of this office that you would like to improve on? And we'll start out with Mr. McVay on this one.
Well, you mentioned the duties that are involved here, and there are certainly, I'm sure, ways to make the office more efficient. It's not an office that I've personally interacted with. I'm sure that a lot of the voters in the county have also not interacted with the office if they were married elsewhere and came in, you know, already married. A lot of people, I think, don't necessarily have cause to interact with the office. So I don't know for sure what sort of efficiencies could be introduced, but I've taken a look at the county website. I've taken a look at the clerk of the peace's website, in particular, the page on the county website. And I'm sure there's room for introducing efficiencies from a technological standpoint there to kind of help communicate out what the clerk is doing to the community and making those resources available to them and kind of helping bring the community into the clerk of the peace's office and kind of show them what's important about it. But I think that a lot of those issues, as I've repeatedly mentioned, could be handled by staff. They don't need an elected officer to do it.
Thank you, Mr. McVay. Ms. Petters. Would you like to answer the question?
Yes, hi.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. So to my understanding, what could use improvement right now, and if this has changed since my conversation with someone a week or two ago, I do apologize, but I was informed that the ceremonial room is still not being used because of COVID, or at least it wasn't up until recently, I believe. And that has actually put more pressure on the Sussex office because people are going there. I do understand COVID. One of my degrees is in public health. I worked specifically in communicable disease and contact tracing. And I would like to see a contingency plan put in place as soon as possible. If it's not already, I apologize, and I'm sure my opponent will respond to this, but if not, it needs to be. Especially with colder weather coming, and because that's a service that we offer here in Kent County. And I know there's creative ways around it, but I would really like to see that ceremonial room start being used and people in Kent County not having to go to Sussex County.
Thank you very much, Ms. Petters. Ms. Wooten.
Hi, thank you. I will have to disagree with Mitters. We are using our ceremonial room. We don't use it for parties more than 6 because of the COVID restrictions. Our room is a smaller room and we don't use it right now because of that reason. If they have a party of 4 or less than 6, we're allowed to use it because of the restrictions on the distancing. Sussex County is not, we are getting a lot of other counties. From my understanding, even in Newcastle County, they're not performing ceremonies yet. We're doing all ceremonies outside, or I can go to venues and do them. I go to different venues, wherever they want to, have them, I'll go to. So it's not true. We are using our ceremonial room for quite a few people. A lot of people that get married from here, that get married in our office, are from the base. And so a lot of times they just have them and their witnesses. So when we have just 4 people or 6, we are allowed to use the ceremony room. And I will definitely use it as much as possible. But until the restrictions lift up a little more, we continue to go outside, and it's, right now it's fine. And if we need more space, we can go into a different area of the building.
Thank you, Ms.
Down the
Wooten.
hallway. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We now turn back to our candidates for levy court. And our third question is, do you feel any strategic changes are needed in the county's approach to growth and development, land use, or transportation planning for the coming decade? And we'll start out with Mr. Brothers from the 5th District.
Yeah, so I think I touched on it earlier about we need to simplify our permitting process, not just with the MGO system, but again, with addressing it on a more day-to-day level with businesses wanting to come in, existing inventory that's in the county, and more by right usage. The biggest thing is the time it takes for them to come in, to go through the process. If it's quicker somewhere else, they're going to go somewhere else. We have a comprehensive plan. I agree with a lot of the elements as far as our employment centers. And we need to make sure that we're, again, I talked about it earlier, looking to bring in diversified employment, not just manufacturing. And also touching again on the housing component, we need the affordable housing. We need the inclusionary housing program, voluntary inclusionary housing program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. So as I addressed before, we had 6 new manufacturing companies come into Kent County. They did not choose Kent County because our process was faster or slow. They chose Kent County because of our location, because of our low tax base. They know that their employees are going to want that, and they can attract employees for those reasons. We also have a comprehensive plan that we update it is updated every 10 years, but we have to review it after 5 years just to make sure everything is on track. That comprehensive plan is certified by the state planning office as well as the governor of the state. And that comprehensive plan goes through hours and hours and hours of review by a special committee as well as public views to make sure that everybody understands that comprehensive plan. As far as the strategic part of it, as I said, $800,000 in a strategic fund that we can use to attract and incentivize new businesses. Plus, we've gone as far as to give tax incentives for them to stay in our county and to hire more people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Sweeney. We'll move now to the 3rd District, Commissioner Angel.
Same question.
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, based on what Commissioner Sweeney was talking about, we have a very low tax base. The quality of life in our district right now is very good. The educational portion, our schools are fantastic. So why not move to Kent County, Delaware? Our Kent Economic Partnership people are actually putting this out, and they're doing a viral search also to have companies come here. So we're looking beyond the means of today, what we used to do and how we used to do things to bring a better system here. So I just feel that this has been a great learning experience. It's going to continue to grow. People are moving here faster than we want them to. In fact, we've now surpassed the state of Florida for retirees because of our low tax structure. In fact, the state had to add more years to get their senior credits from 3 to 5 because we need them to come here, because as soon as they come here, they want the same services.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Angel.
Thank you.
We'll move now to Mr. Satchel. Same question.
Same thing, jobs. Definitely need to keep the ones that we have already established and bring in new jobs. We're growing, and agree with my opponent. We are definitely growing. We're growing at a rapid rate, and with growth, we have to adapt to it. That means we have to add on to what we already have, because the fact that we are growing here as a county and as a state, and to offer more opportunities for better paying jobs here. People are coming here because of our low tax base, and that's one of the reasons. If you ask anyone who's moved from outside of the state to Delaware, they'll tell you low taxes. Who can beat that? Our job is to give them a reason to come here, which I believe we are doing that. We're also giving them a reason to stay here also. That way we have to offer more and offer more around us. I think we have the resources to do it. And with our young people, they feel like they have no career here in Kent County or Delaware. So we want to be able to usher in more jobs that in whatever field that they are desiring, to help them along to continue increasing Kent County and our job growth.
Thank you, Mr. Satchel. We move now to the first district, and we'll ask Ms. Maston to answer the same question.
Having listened to Commissioner Sweeney and Commissioner Angel, there's not a lot I can add. I am very fortunate to have a seat at the Kent Economic Partnership representing Smyrna, as well as being in attendance either virtually or in person at all the Kent County meetings since I filed on January 9th. So the comp plan is very important. It is reviewed, as Commissioner Sweeney said. It is totally probably revamped every 10 years, signed off by state planning. The independent people that I've called to get out and vote have said the reason they come here from New Jersey, Connecticut, New York is because of a low tax base. Our schools are great. I can't speak obviously for any place other than the Smyrna district, which I am prejudiced because I graduated here. The new companies that the KEP is moving in conjunction with Greater Kent Committee and Levy Court makes Kent County a great place to live. Are there things maybe that they can do down the road to enhance what we already have? But I think we're all should be pretty proud of what we have in Kent County.
Thank you, Ms. Maston. Dr. Chervenek.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you now.
Okay, one rebuttal. Bay Health is bringing in employed physicians. They can come and they can go. We need people who want to stay here. So that's one point I want to make. The second thing is the infrastructure of this county, and I'm listening to my colleagues. Do you ask anybody who says to you, I want to do this, I want to do that, how is this going to improve or maintain the quality of life we have here? I have the advantage, I think, of living in many environments, not just Kent County, 30 years though. But I came from New Jersey, a place where I don't want to live anymore. And Newcastle County is a place I don't want to live anymore. I don't want Kent County to become like that. Now, what are you guys going to do about that? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chervenek.
I'm passionate.
Rebuttal, Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, ma'am. So my opponent mentioned by right permitting. So let me tell you about two failures of by right permitting. One of them was about 5 years ago, which was the Silo Speedway. When you have by right permitting, it allows somebody to do something with their property without going through the process of allowing those who are impacted by that have any say in that process. So Silo Speedway was going to put a racetrack that was going to severely impact the grapevine industry of Pete Pizzadilli. The second one is, and if you've ridden by it in north of Dover, is the Ben Dover Romantic Superstore. That was a by right location, and it gave the people who live around there no opportunity to come in and suggest that they don't like the name, they don't like the location, they don't like the business. They never had the opportunity to even speak about it. That's what by right does, and that's why I'm not in favor of that type of by right permitting. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney.
Could I rebut his comments? a little bit?
Absolutely. Go ahead, Mr. Brothers.
Yeah, so I'm not for by right in every situation. I'll give you a perfect example where it would make sense. I talked to a small business owner that owns a motorcycle repair shop on Route 10. He was originally going to go into the complex that houses Ford and Dominion Brewery, if you're familiar. Great brewery here in Kent County, by the way. And he would have had to get a conditional use permit, but it's an industrial area. I don't think a motorcycle repair shop would be a problem there. I don't think anybody would have had a problem with that there. So that would have made sense for it to be by right. And another example is this already happening, like I mentioned earlier, childcare, daycare centers and business general. So I'm not saying to put it everywhere, to have by right everywhere, but there's a lot of times where it's going to make sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. We'll turn
I
now
had
to this, actually,
I had
this
a- I had
question.
a-
Oh, Commissioner Angel, you'd like to?
Yes,
rebut?
I'd
Sure,
like to rebut.
go ahead.
Yes, Dr. Shervinack.
Oh, wow.
For those who may not be around as long as I have been so far, back in when I first became an elected official, my constituents were saying infrastructure for development, basically for the quality of life, to make sure we had things in place. Out of that came the public adequate facilities ordinance that Mr. Sweeney said to. I'm the one that brought that forth and took it through to get that on the books. Anybody that sells land that needs to, they need to step up to the plate. So they're paying for hospitals, police, firemen, schools, all that comes out of the public adequate facilities. It went all the way to the Supreme Court and we won on that. We have that now in place to help out. So when land is sold, it can generate some of the things that Dr. Shervinack was saying we can do. I just want to bring that up.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Are we ready to move on now? All right. This question has already been touched on by some of you, but it's now more specific. Is there a long-term plan to increase the availability of affordable housing in Kent County for lower income residents? What should be the goals and time frame of this plan? Should it include access to affordable transportation? We'll start out on this question with Dr. Chervenak.
That's a very good question. And part of my career has been getting into problem solving. I've spent my career analyzing data, creating possible solutions, and then doing it. That is an issue which I'd have to get into the weeds and look at what is possible. I know we have some affordable housing in Smyrna at this point, but what can the county help District 1 with? I'd find out. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Chervenak. Ms. Maston.
I have to go along with Dr. Chevernak. I have not been a part of any meetings on any of the county plans. As he said, we do have some affordable housing here in Smyrna, but as to what the county can do or what their plans are long-term, I really am not privy to that information if anything's been discussed. So I have to pass on that.
Thank you, Ms. Maston. Going to the 5th District, Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. So affordable housing is a pipe dream. The reason I say that is because developers know that they get more profit from homes that they build that are larger. And those developers, like the one that my opponent works for, they want the profits. They don't want to build small houses that there's no profit margin. So in order to encourage that, we would have to incentivize additional affordable homes with taxpayer dollars. And that's not something I'm really keen on, is to go to a taxpayer and say, well, we're going to use your taxpayer dollars to subsidize smaller homes that are going to be in your subdivision. People are just not going to buy that. As far as affordable transportation, DART has a bus service that they currently can go anywhere. All you have to do is ask them and do a survey, and they'll put a bus stop. And that is one of the most underused services that Delaware provides.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Mr. Brothers. Mr.
Yeah,
Brothers,
again, I think my opponent's incorrect. We don't have to subsidize it with taxpayer dollars. I'll go back to my suggestion again about the inclusionary affordable housing program that both Newcastle County, it's voluntary, both Newcastle County and Sussex County have. And what it does is it says the developer can have more lots in exchange for a certain number of them being affordable housing. And I'd also like to note in the instructions for the debate, it said that there wasn't to be any personal attacks. And for him to attack my employer, I think is a personal attack. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Any rebuttals? Okay, we'll move on to the next. No, we'll go to the 3rd District. I'm sorry. Mr. Satchel, your comment on the affordable housing issue.
I have met with a few voters in my district that are single parents raising 3, 4 children. And their rent or mortgage keeps going up to where they can't afford it. And they want answers. You know, it's hard for, and I'm a single dad with 1 kid. And luckily I have a good paying job and I can afford my lifestyle. Some cannot. And unfortunately, because of low paying jobs that we have in the county is why there are some single mothers, single fathers who aren't able to afford paying for their homes. And either homes are foreclosed or they're evicted. We need to find a solution to help them. And they're looking for a solution. I think sometimes that's overlooked. And I understand Commissioner Sweeney was talking about, you know, I'm in the construction in the business, and I see, you know, bigger homes go up every day. Not everyone can afford those.
Thank you, Mr. Satchel. You might be able to come back to that in the next couple of
Okay.
questions. Thank you. Commissioner Angel, 3rd District.
Yes, actually, back in 2006 and 7 or 8, when the housing boom was really moving, I was talking to developers about doing like a Levittown in New York, in Pennsylvania. That's a cookie cutter type of house at that time. It could have been done, made smaller in this area instead of doing apartments, because more transients usually bring more crime. So I was looking to get people into homes, even smaller ones at that time. So having said that, I really believe that this is why we need good paying jobs. So we can have them come in, support those employees to buying those homes, and have the American dream. I think that's what this is all about. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel.
Okay.
Mr. McVay, you have a rebuttal.
Yeah, I realize that this is a question for the levy court commissioners, but I was actually just reading an article about affordable housing either today or yesterday. And if I can channel Jimmy McMillan a little bit for a second about the rent being too damn high. But what the article was basically getting at is that it's not about specifically set aside affordable housing. Housing responds to supply and demand. So if you open up the ability to develop more housing, whether it's affordable, whether it's too big, whether it's whatever, prices for the homes in general are going to go down because the supply has increased. So this is not something that you really need rocket science for. You just need to allow people to develop their properties into more and more varied kinds of residential property. And you can have an increase in the supply of housing and the price will go down and it will be affordable.
Thank you, Mr. McVay.
Can I say something?
Rebuttal, Commissioner Sweeney. Yes.
Thank you. So the inclusionary program, the inclusionary housing program, inclusionaryhousing.org tells you that the only way to get that to a developer, to get a developer to develop that process, is to offer incentives, whether it's tax abatements, and yes, higher densities is one of them. But that higher density also puts more infrastructure problems on our roads, our schools, and our paramedic program, our public services like police, fire companies. And we have a comprehensive plan that addresses that. And that comprehensive plan has to be not adhered to, but that sets the plan for the county and what it will look like in 10 to 15 years.
Precisely. Can I say something?
As soon as the commission is it time for Commissioner Sweeney?
So I'm just about done. So that those incentives are going to have an impact on Kent County. It's going to have an impact on those who live in Kent County. And I can tell you that the people I've talked to, it is market driven, and the developers want to build bigger houses.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Was it you that wanted to make a comment? Or
No. This is Doug Sherbanek.
Oh, all right. I didn't see you down here. Thank you. Go ahead.
All right. I don't know what Jody Sweeney's talking about, but in Smyrna, there's more dense housing going in here than you can shake a stick at. And Mr. Ramuno is building Bon Air, double wide. There's trailer communities. There's all kinds of things going on here. Ramuno is building a very dense community. And if I were on levy court, I'd be talking to the Smyrna Town Council. What are you doing? I would never have built the Walmart distribution center in the middle of a residential area, but it happened. And the county doesn't talk to the towns. The county doesn't talk to Dover. And I had that from them. And when I was on council, I didn't see anybody from the county. You have planning, they have planning, state has planning, nobody talks. You know, I'm very upset about what I'm dealing with up here. And the county, oh, no, they don't want dense housing. Jody, come up here. I'll show you dense housing.
Thank- I think
Yes,
we have to
I
move
made
on.
my
Can
point.
I,
I'm
can I
sorry.
rebut one thing real quick?
Mr. Brothers, yes, you haven't rebutted
Thank
yet,
you.
so go ahead.
So I do want to follow the comprehensive plan, and they've actually recommended in the comprehensive plan what I talked about, an inclusionary, a voluntary inclusionary housing program. So I just wanted to point that out.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Let's
I'd
move
like
on
to say
now.
something too, ma'am. if I could.
Commissioner Angel, did you want to say something on this?
Yes, please.
Go right
And
ahead.
this is to Dr. Shervanek.
Thank you.
Dr. Shervanek, I am the liaison to the counties for the city of Dover. Now, we haven't had a meeting in a while, but that's not because we didn't want to. So that has been brought up that we're going to expand our liaisons from the county for better communication.
Good.
With Harrington, with Smyrna, and with Milford. So that is in the works. Once we get back into our, I hope, our normal role of doing things with government and everybody can get together and work together. So, but with the way things are right now, I'd rather be safe than sorry.
But it wasn't done in the past.
Okay, one rebuttal per question.
I'm
But
sorry.
I want to tell you, we've broken the record for rebuttals tonight on this question, which is an indication that this issue needs to be looked at with greater scrutiny, because there's a lot of interest and a lot of ideas about this issue. So I'm really excited about your involvement with this question. Let's move on now. And this has to do with communication. The next two questions have to do with communication within levy court. And I will get to, after that, we will get to the clerk of the peace questions. Can county levy court's actions affect the welfare of county residents? How will you keep the lines of communication open with your constituents? And we'll start out this time with Commissioner Angel.
Well, thank you very much. Actually, this is near and dear to my heart because communication is number one. I have 5 phones that people can reach me on, an email address that they can reach me on. I also serve on the Kent County NACO board for telecommunications.
We've
So
lost-
when you about service,
We're losing you here. Hold on.
am I there? Hello?
Okay, we've got you now. No, now
I'm
we've
losing
lost
you too. Okay,
What time is the Republican debate?
can you hear me now?
Now we're good.
Okay, don't know what's going on, but anyway, as I said before, I can go to Kitsummick, which is 2 miles from my home, and I can't have cell service. All the West Coast, and I can have somebody's like they're standing right next to me. So until we get the broadband issue worked out, we can think that until this COVID issue is taken care of, we're going to have a little bit of a problem.
Can we deal with, we're having a little
Yeah,
trouble with
we
with
did-
receiving your comments.
More with social media, I'm not so sure it's a good thing sometimes. I've lost you. I can't hear you.
And we've lost you
Hello?
too. Can we come back to Commissioner Angel and let him finish his comments a little later? Try it again, Commissioner Angel, one more time. Can you hear us?
Okay. What was the last thing I said? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now hear you. And we'll give you a few more, we'll give
Everything's
you a
saying
few more
I'm
seconds.
on, so. Okay, but as I've said in the past, I can go to Kitsummick and not be heard. I can't use my cell phone. So the people in that area, for safety reasons, can't even call an ambulance or a police officer or anything because they have no service. So until the broadband deployment help happens here in our state and our counties, we're going to have issues with communication. But it's not like you can't get a hold of me though. Like I said, I have many different phone lines, and I got an email that people can reach out to me. And if that doesn't work, start using smoke signals. I know how to read smoke signals.
Thank you, Commissioner. I think we're having a problem with communication tonight, never mind in your district. But thank you very much for your ideas. Mr. Satchel, your comments on this issue.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Communication is obviously key. And one of the things that I have been brought to my attention for a few voters in the district, some of them couldn't tell you who their present commissioner is right now. And they never seen him. And I want to be able to, if you know me, you know my name as long with my face. Having town hall meetings, talking to the constituents. And that's because a lot of general public are not informed because they don't bother to keep themselves informed of what's going on. And that may be no fault of any commissioner, but it's just, we need to be better when it comes to outreach and having open lines of communication. You know, obviously Facebook's a good tool, but most time when people call, when they have an issue, they want to be able to pick up and talk to whoever they need to talk to obviously resolve a problem or issue that they have. So definitely open. I guess my time is up, so okay.
Well, let me tell you something. There's always rebuttal time, so you can hold that thought.
Okay.
Ms. Maston.
For me, Facebook was an excellent means of communication when I was on town council and with mayor. Obviously, not everybody is on Facebook, but Facebook is a good media. I think attending the HOA meetings for the various communities that are in District 1. I also think being in attendance at every Kent County event that you can possibly attend works very well, because I can tell you when I was mayor, I attended every event that the town had. I also think that attending town council meetings, whether they be Smyrna, Clayton, Cheswell, whatever areas that have town council meetings within District 1 is a great way to get your word out. Also, I think the other way that you can do a newsletter, or you can get on an email group to individuals. But being retired will afford me the ability and the time to be able to get out there and make sure that District 1 is represented. I can tell you there'll be very few people in Smyrna today that can't tell you that Brooks Banna is their commissioner, because he's been here for so long. Everybody knows him.
Thank you, Ms. Maston. Dr. Sherbanek. No, we can't hear
There you
you.
go.
You're muted. There you go.
Because I'm
Okay.
not retired and working full time, seeing a lot of patients in District 1, I communicate a lot. What I would do is actually have quarterly meetings in District 1, invite everybody to go to some fire hall or whatever, to have a public hearing as to what they think is going on in our county or in our district. And attending town hall meetings, I think, is important. Being in communication with council members of all the towns, I think, is important. And I will endeavor to do that on a regular basis.
Thank you, Dr. Sherbanek. Moving to the 5th District, Mr. Brothers.
Yes, I think we might have to get Commissioner Angel some faster broadband. Yeah, certainly communication is important. Constituent service is important. I would definitely be available to folks by phone, email, attending HOA meetings. I will say, I will give this to my opponent. He is very present at those sorts of things. He is responsive, but I would also be responsive As a HOA director, I've dealt with a number of different issues from homeowners, ranging from, I got tree limbs growing in my yard, or high grass, or when are they going to plow the snow? So I certainly understand and appreciate the constituent service aspect of the job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you, ma'am. So, and Mr. Brothers is correct. I have 92 different subdivisions in my district, and I attend about 30 HOAs a year to speak to them about what's going on at Levy Court. And my opponent will also attest that I'm very present on social media. There's no doubt about that. With about 1,200 followers that not only follow everything I say, but they also share much of the information that I share about Levy Court especially. But Levy Court's taking it to the next step. We're looking at open government software that's going to allow our financial positions and information to be put online so that any resident anytime can go look and see our checkbook, can see what our statements are, see where we are financially, because that impacts them. And I'm also writing monthly articles now for the Harvest Year Senior Center newsletter, as well as the Modern Maturity Bulletin that shares information and the good news that's going on in Kent County that Levy Court does. And I keep it nonpartisan, but it's great information for everybody to know.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Mr. McVay.
Yeah, again, sorry, I realize this was a question for the commissioners, but this is something when relating to communication. I feel like the clerk's office has a role that they can play here. In particular, since the clerk is expected to attend all of the Levy Court meetings, the minutes of those meetings serves as a countersigner for the bonds and the warrants. They're kind of a centralized clearinghouse for pretty much everything that goes on in the Levy Court. So to kind of have some of those records put online, promoted out through social media, and allows kind of a mutual conversation, have feedback coming in through the internet as well. I think the clerk of the peace office can play a huge role in kind of facilitating that communication on behalf of the Levy Court commissioners and the Levy Court as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVay. Commissioner Sweeney, rebuttal.
Thanks. I would like to also rebut. It's not a rebuttal, but my opponent gave me credit for something. I will give him credit for something. One of the things I tell people who want to run for Levy Court is that they need to attend Levy Court meetings. If you're going to run for Levy Court now in 2 years because you want to run for one of those seats, start coming to Levy Court now. You'll learn the issues. You're able to speak on the issues. And to Joanne Maston and Clint Brothers, thank you both for attending all the Levy Court meetings that you guys attend. It's great that you guys get involved and that you know the issues and you see and hear exactly what we're voting on up there at the dais. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney.
I'd like to rebut too, please.
Commissioner Angel.
Thank you. Yes, my opponent said that I'm not known in my district. So I will say not everybody can be known because it is a transient area. We have military that come and go. People move around. I'm very well known in my district, and I don't play politics. I listen to anybody that gives me a call that asks for help, whether it's in my district or not. That's what I do. I've already proven that. I also would like to chime in that if you're interested in coming to Levy Court and being a Levy Court commissioner, you need to be there. Not come once or twice, maybe 3 times, and not show back up. This is a duty to the people and whatever you're trying to do, whatever party you are. I try to keep the politics out of it. I always tell everybody when they ask me what party I have, I usually say I'm Catholic. I work with different religions. I can work with different parties. What does it matter as long as I'm doing the job?
Thank you, Commissioner Angel.
Could I please say one thing?
Please, Ms. Maston, please go right ahead.
I will have to say, had I not been attending every Levy Court meeting, either in person or virtually, since I filed January 9th, I would not have been able to adequately prepare for this meeting tonight. And I think Clint Brothers can also tell you the same thing because he's sitting right there with me and I'm sure he's on the phone. If you don't go to the meetings, you don't have a clue what's going on. You can't weigh in, you can't be critical. And I will say the one thing I think I am most proud of is even though I know all of them that are on Levy Court are from different parties, whether it be Republican or Democrat, that never comes through in those meetings. They are truly a bipartisan group working for the betterment of Kent County. And I'm very proud to say I'm part of Kent County. And I hope I can represent District 1 on Kent County Levy Court in January.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maston. The next question is also a communications type question. How do you, do you feel that the Levy Court has complied with the Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, in granting public access to government documents? We'll start out with Ms. Maston this time.
I have to pass on that because I have no knowledge. I've never had to request anything, so I wouldn't know.
Dr. Sherbanek.
I agree with Mrs. Maston.
Mr. Brothers.
Yeah, so I think as far as I can see, the levy court is very transparent. They post meeting minutes. They post even video. You can go back and watch video of levy court proceedings, which is great. You know, they post different ordinances. Certainly it's important, but as far as I can see, yeah, I think levy court is very transparent, but if there's anything more that we could do, I'm all ears. I mean, the more transparent, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thanks. To my knowledge, a FOIA request has never been denied by anybody who has come to levy court, whether it was a result of a lawsuit or grievance or whatever. A FOIA request has never been denied. We are an open government, and we like to say we are the most open government in Delaware, as far as putting information out there, having meetings open to the public, and always giving everybody the opportunity to speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Moving to the 3rd District, Mr. Satchel. Mr. Satchel.
For what I've seen so far, levy court has been very transparent. Could we do more? Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Commissioner Angel.
Well, I don't know how much more we can get transparent, but I've never heard of anybody being turned down and everything being done within the scope of the law and the rules and regulations we have to follow. So, but I also would like to hear from anybody that has a better idea of making it a better idea. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. McVay.
Yes, sorry, I know I'm doing it again. This is another area where I feel like the clerk's office can help. Kind of in the similar vein that I've talked to before. I'd have no knowledge of any issues with, FOIA requests or lack of transparency from the levy court. As far as I know, Mr. Sweeney's correct and Mr. Angel's correct that there's absolutely nothing to be concerned about on that front. But just to kind of facilitate the transparency, the clerk is kind of a central repository of what goes through the levy court and would be in a position to make that available online to kind of preempt the need even for FOIA requests in a lot of cases. So.
Thank you, Mr. McVay. Our next question is for the Clerk of the Peace candidates. We have not forgotten you. And this is actually a point that has already come up, and it appears in the questions. Do you feel that the Clerk of the Peace should continue as an elected office or be filled by appointment, and why? We'll start out with Ms. Wooten on this question. Yep, we can't hear you. Ms. Wooten? Would you like to answer that question? We can't hear you.
Okay, I'm unmuted. No, I absolutely feel it should be an elected official, elected office. I like the people to decide. I think it's the people's choice. And I think by, remove the political process by having the people choose to be, to do it. We serve the community, and we serve, we want the community to be able to represent who they want to put in office.
Thank you, Ms. Wooten.
You're welcome.
Mr. McVay.
Absolutely not. I think that this is not an office that the people are actually deciding. I mean, they get to the ballot box and vote, but who really knows who their Clerk of the Peace candidates are? Who really cares who their Clerk of the Peace candidates are? There's no policy decisions that are made by the Clerk of the Peace that have reverberations further than the four walls of the office. This is not a position that the people need a lot of input on. This is a position that if it's elected, it makes it very difficult unto impossible to replace a clerk who is not doing their job properly. And I'm not casting aspersions on the incumbent. I'm not casting aspersions on Ms. Betters about whether or not they would do the job properly. I'm just saying, in the event that you have that circumstance arise, there is nothing that can be done about it because it's an elected office. And it's not an elected office that voters are paying any attention to. This is an elected office that you get because you're close enough to your party bigwigs that you get the nomination. You know, whether it's, you know, something that's passed down in the family or something that you're approached by party bigwigs for, it's not something that is passionately felt, I want to do clerk of the peace so that I can change this, that, or the other thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVay. Ms. Petters. Ms. Petters.
Hi. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes. We
Okay,
could a
so
minute ago. There we go.
Okay, I do think that it should stay in an elected position. And the reason for that is because just to, you know, make sure that the integrity of the transparency and accountability for co-signing on funds and, you know, and writing and taking down the minutes, we want to make sure that the person who is doing is left up to the people, because otherwise all it's going to end up being is another appointed position by the majority party. There's never going to be any balance, and that's not a good thing. Although I would like to add this. If I were elected clerk of the peace and I got in that position and I saw that between me and the other people working there, that it is a waste of taxpayer dollars, then I would raise that question. I would consider some of the things that Mr. McVay says. I can't say whether or not I agree fully or not, unless I were in that position, but I would definitely consider it.
Thank you. Thank
But
you, Ms.
until
Petters.
then, yes, it should definitely
you.
stay an elected position because the majority party is going to keep
Thank you.
pointing
We'll
the
have to
same
move
people.
on now. You, if you'd like to rebut at afterwards, then that would be fine. Mr. McVay, you had a rebuttal on that question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. The fact of the matter is that the majority party basically chooses the clerk of the peace now. I mean, with all due respect to Ms. Petters, this is a heavily Democratic district and nobody pays attention to who the candidates are for clerk of the peace. This is most likely going to go to Ms. Wooten again. Congratulations in advance. There's no accountability here. This is not an example of accountability in action. You'll get a lot more accountability if you have individual commissioners who have to answer for who they pick to be clerk of the peace and have some kind of consensus on who they're going to choose.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McVay. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. So over the past 10 years, I've been instrumental in getting rid of 2 elected row offices. One was the receiver of taxes and the other was comptroller. So that saved the county hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in employee and payments for those offices, because we were able to eliminate not only the elected position, but create a position for those, or melt their responsibilities into another position. I don't know that this row office, Mr. McVay, I don't know that this is the next best one that we should go after. I think the next one we go after is recorder of deeds and eliminate that as an elected position. These are archaic positions that were put in the Constitution of Delaware many, many years ago for a good reason. That reason doesn't exist anymore.
Paramedic, did you have something you wanted to add? You're muted. You're muted. We can't hear you.
We're coming up on debate time.
Yeah, well, we only have a few more questions.
And you know what? You're doing a great job. You must have worked for public broadcasting at some point.
Not guilty. We have a few more questions and we'll try to wrap it up as soon as we can, but these are important questions and I don't want to miss them. For our levy court candidates, how do you respond to those who advocate white supremacy? And we'll start out with Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. During this past summer, I had attended a couple of the Black Lives Matter movement. And I was also able to meet with some of those who were in attendance at those meetings. I was at the Delaware State Police Troop 3 when a group of them were arrested in front of the Wawa in Camden. And I can tell you that they have very valid concerns, and to hear somebody say yes, but all lives matter. That just tells me that those people who say that just don't understand the plight of people of color over the last 400 years in this country, because they have been suppressed so much over those 400 years that it's time that we started working to make their lives better. And I'm work with that. I work with those groups, and I'm hoping to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Mr. Brothers.
Yeah, I mean, we can't condone hatred in any form, whether it's white supremacy or any other bigotry on that level. It's just despicable. We can't condone it. And yes, Black lives do matter. I was just speaking with a neighbor the other day. His wife is Black, and he was talking about the difference between the media puts it out there, the Black Lives Matter group, and associates them with other groups that are, quite frankly, not part of their group, that are out there to destroy. But really, Black Lives Matter essentially is a concept that the true Black Lives Matter is the concept that they want equal treatment as anybody else, and that's at the key role of our government is to ensure equal rights for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Angel from the 5th District. Excuse me, from the 3rd District. You're muted. We can't hear you.
You mute people and then
There.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes, we can.
Okay, I appreciate the question. However, that has nothing to do with levy court position. This is a personal issue. Having a biracial family in my family, I find it very despicable what people have to go through. Now, I don't want to hear my granddaughter say, again, I wish I was whiter. That has nothing to do with a 7 to 9-year-old being thrown in her face. So I have a major issue with that. And I can't believe that at times of disasters and difficulty, we all come together. But then when we don't have that, we have race as the issue, we all fall apart and get negative. I think Morgan Freeman, the actor, says it best. When you add race to an issue, it becomes a race issue. You take race out, there is no issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Angel. Mr. Satchel from the 3rd District.
Hatred shouldn't be tolerated. We should accept all races and all beliefs. Unfortunately, we don't live in a world where it's perfect, so obviously we have our issues. Speaking as obviously a Black man, I do believe there is systematic racism that's going on. And I have to be able to teach my 10-year-old, your color is what you are, but it's the content of your character. It's how people should judge you, not your color. And I was brought up by good parents who taught me to never look at someone's outward appearance, but always look at the inward appearance. So I think we really need to come together and bridge the gap. And I think it's a conversation that's worth having. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Satchel. Moving to the 1st District, Dr. Shervanek.
thank you for asking this question. As a physician, we share the same blood. We share the same organs. We have different packages. Take the packages off, we're the same. We should be preaching unity. And my mantra now is, you tell me how different you are from me, and I may think of you differently. You tell me how much you have in common with me, and I may think of you as my friend. I have that in my mind when I see my patients. They're all the same.
Thank you, Dr. Shervanek. We have several more questions, but I'm going to just go with one more, which is quite important for now. And, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. McVeigh, I didn't see your hand. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just need to throw something in here because as somebody said, I can't remember who it was. I apologize. It was Mr. Angel, Commissioner Angel. This is not really a huge issue for levy court, I don't think, but it touches on what is kind of a huge issue for clerk of the peace, in particular regarding the issuance of marriage licenses. It's been math real quick here, 53 years since loving in Virginia. So, there's no longer prohibitions against issuing marriage licenses to interracial couples. And since Obergefell in 2014, 2015, I forget the exact year, there's no longer any restrictions permitted on issuance of marriage licenses to same gender couples. But there are still examples where people are trying to turn that into a thing and use the clerk of the peace office as a mechanism for doing that. And that is, again, one of the reasons why it should not be an elected office, because you can't do that if you're a staff. And so there's absolutely no place for that in government, and there's absolutely no reason for it in your personal life either. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McVeigh.
Can I comment?
Did someone else want to answer this question?
Yeah, can I comment?
Oh, of course, Ms. Maston.
Yes.
You need to put up your, I can't see.
I'm sorry. I think everybody has pretty much touched on the same thing, but I was brought up that you treat everybody equal and you treat people the way you want to be treated. And I can say much the same as Commissioner Angel. I have biracial grandchildren or great grandchildren. And I'm sure at some point in time, they're going to face issues as they're growing up. But they're beautiful children. We love them regardless of what the situation is, because once again, you treat people the way you want to be treated. And personally, I have no time for hatred.
Thank you very much, Ms. Maston. This final question certainly does affect life in Delaware and all over the country. How do you feel climate change has affected life in Delaware, and specifically in Kent County? What steps, if any, should be taken to lessen the negative effects of climate change? And we'll start out with our first district candidates with Ms. Maston.
Well, I'm not a scientist. Growing up, obviously, we had 4 seasons. Over the years, you could enjoy spring, fall, winter, and summer. However, in today's world, it seems like we miss out on some seasons. But not being a scientist, I have to pass on that question because I don't think I can give you an intelligent answer.
Thank you, Ms. Maston. Dr. Shervanek.
Hi, I have a lot of doubts about all this. Why? Because in 1977, we were going to have the great ice age. Guaranteed by all the science. It didn't happen. At this point, I think that maybe fossil fuels are increasing our temperature, but the exact amount is, I think, really up in the air. And we have seasons, we have cold seasons, we have hurricane season, we have this and that. I think it's a science that is really in evolution. I don't know how much really is real. So.
Thank you, Dr. Shervanek. From the 5th District, Mr. Brothers.
Yes, I mean, from a levy court perspective, certainly farmland preservation, which is something that levy court does to balance development and preserving the way of life here in Kent County. And then also, it was just talked about the other night at levy court, I believe Commissioner Buxton brought it up, is, when we're buying new vehicles, let's look into the eco-friendly vehicles, the hybrids and stuff like that. And those are, basically easy ways where we can look at minimizing the impact on the environment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brothers. Commissioner Sweeney.
Thank you. So I'm very happy to get this answer before Commissioner Angel. Delaware is the entire contiguous state. Delaware is the lowest state in the 48 states. We have the lowest. We're going to be impacted more by sea level rise than any other state in the union. So we have to do something. Commissioner Angel has a lot of land that is in his district out along the coast. And the Coastal Zone Protection Act that was enacted a decade and a half ago is going to protect much of that. But Commissioner Angel can tell you, I've been out there working with him after seawalls were broken through and homes were flooded. So as far as Kent County is concerned, we have to add incentives for companies that are going to produce renewable energy. And Levy Court itself gets a check back from Delaware Electric Co-op every year for the renewable energy that we provide by being totally off the grid at our wastewater treatment plant in Frederica. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Sweeney. Commissioner Angel.
Well, I thank Commissioner Sweeney for that. 10 years ago, I was at the Jet Propulsion in Los Angeles with a Kent Conservation District seminar convention. And Tim's uncle was #2 in charge at that time. He took us into a room that they had the monitors that went across the whole room. And on each monitor was a year and a decade of where the ice age was falling into the ocean. At that point in time, sea level rise had risen 1 inch because of the amount of ice that was melting. So the ozone at one point was open and it's been closed up again. So we have to be careful with some of the chemicals that we are using. That is a state and federal thing that they're working on. But I would be definitely a proponent for making sure that the county would do its part too. For example, trash the steam for producing electricity. Right now, we're going to be losing our landfill. You pollute the ground and you can take that trash. and make
Commissioner
a fuel
Angel, we're
cell.
going to take your sage advice at that point and absorb it.
Thank you.
Because we've run out of time. But thank you
That's
so much
fine.
for your ideas. You've made us ponder things.
Thank you.
We have now come to the close of tonight's program. Let me thank both the viewing public and the candidates for your involvement in this learning experience, and it has been a learning experience. Our gratitude also goes to the League of Women Voters, AAUW, the Central Delaware NAACP, the National Panhellenic Council, and Restoring Central Dover for supporting this example of grassroots democracy. These debates can be accessed tomorrow on the League websites and Facebook. Please note that the League of Women Voters of Delaware will present a virtual candidate debate for U.S. Senator and U.S. Representative next week on October 28th, and for Governor, Lieutenant Governor, and Insurance Commissioner on October 29th. Please send in your candidate questions to kcdelwv@gmail.com. I'm going to repeat that. kcdelwv@gmail.com. These debates are being recorded using Zoom. No public is in attendance. Recording of these events may not be used without the express approval of the League of Women Voters. The League will only allow audio and/or video of this forum to be broadcast in its entirety, except by media reporting on the event. Audio and video of the federal and statewide debates will be streamed on League websites and Facebook on Friday, October 30th. Most importantly, please remember to vote by Tuesday, November 3rd. Thank you and good night.